Good morning. It is 8:58, Sunday, the February the 23rd, for the record. So my name is AJ aka Ahmed Jr. And this is my declaration and my basically video statement as to what's been happening with me over the last year or so, right? And I have a court. This is my case before the Supreme Court of Canada that involves my child custody, and essentially I will be giving the history as to what led to the event that transpired, and has been transpiring with me over the last year or so, from November the 17th, 2023, all the way to basically now as I speak. So, declaration. My name is AJ aka Ahmed Jr. I am an indigenous Palestinian born refugee in the city of Damascus, Syria, with a permanent resident record of October 26, 1999, and a naturalized citizen as of 2003. So we immigrated from Syria in 1999. That's when my father had basically got the green light for an immigration visa to Canada. And I went on high school in 2000, January, until January 2003. I finished high school. I went on seeking higher education. I enrolled at Carleton University, basically in aerospace, electronics, and system design engineering. That would be stream C. So that's my record. So class 2009, I graduated. I had jump-started my career in 2006, working as an internship at a French-based company called Alcatel. So, I went through life motion. I bought my first house in 2007. I was working for Alcatel for 16 months straight. So I did, basically consecutive 4 terms, 4 months each co-op. So that's 16-month co-op terms at Alcatel. I moved around in Alcatel. So, in 2007, I had put aside, down payment, and I was saving my money. And essentially, I ended up paying for, my first condo, down payment. And, I got approved for a mortgage. And, life started for me. I was, contributing to the society. I was already a homeowner at the age of 21. Basically, I went back to school in 2009. 2008. I met my, now ex-wife, but in 2008, January 25th of 2008, my wife and I, or my ex-wife and I, we had first basically met, and we've had a really, really good relationship. She is, she is a Latina. She is a Latina. She was born in Canada, Canadian-born Latina, and she is born Catholic. I was born Muslim in Damascus, but I came to Canada, and each their own. You could go and do your own thing. This is why we came to Canada at one point. It's for essentially to pursue better life and happiness, and better life opportunities. It's everybody has that natural choice. It's innate to all of us to have that natural choice to go and seek better life and opportunities elsewhere. Not because you're a country does not provide such opportunities. It's because you are unable to speak and share your mind. This is why the Arab Spring in 2011 had started, and Syria for the last 10-11 years was engulfed in fires, and we're still, as we speak, there's uncertainties in the area, in the region, and Bashar al-Assad has been basically ousted, and he's been toppled down. He leaves to Russia, and we have a new man now. But the point is, people are tired. They want to be able to express and speak their mind. So Canada, under the Constitution of 1982, Section 1.2, you have that what we call fundamental rights and freedom. So, and this is essentially the, Section 1.2 is the freedom of belief, expression, and association. I mean, it's just fundamental, man. So I come here, and basically that's the background. So I am an indigenous Palestinian, as I said, born refugee in the city of Damascus. we came here to Canada in 1999, October 26. I go to, high school. I seek higher education. I finished my aerospace electronics Bachelor of Engineering at, Carleton University, 2009. I've been working in the high tech and startup world, so to speak, since 2006. I had my internship first done. I went to, university back in 2008. I finished my, fourth year project, unmanned aerial vehicle. And, I had met at the time, my ex, as I mentioned. So that's kind of like the quick summary as to, where we are. So now, fast forward, from 2010, I graduated in 2009. In 2010, I had started my, full-time job career at semiconductor startup called Clear Semiconductor. And, been to China, been to Japan, been to other places around the world, just as an engineer, as a, field application engineer, as a just tester, you name it. So, like, I've basically worked, put my time in the corporate world, so to speak. And, I moved through different, ranks, not from junior to senior, but, experiences, so to speak. Like, I've had the opportunity to experience, and have a lot of extensive experience, from in different companies, across different market domains and application, right? So, 2021, we all know we've been hit by a global pandemic, 2020, everything shuts down. 2021, we're working from home, and I've been essentially staying at home. I've been having this kind of, idea. It's not something new to me where I start my own business. I've had already left in 2015. I was working for a startup in semiconductor called Sidance, which is, at the time it was an industry leader in anti-fuse, basically one-time programmable non-volatile memory semiconductor IP. So, I was working at Sidance since 2014 I started, and, I had to leave towards the end of 2015, almost 2 years of experience. But it's the impact that you leave behind, right? And, within very short time, I was, able to essentially, propose and, save and, propose cost savings and propose new product ideas and, you name it. So every time I go to a place, when I leave, I don't leave just because I leave. A job is a job, but, I'm there to make an impact. So that's my kind of gift, my skill as an engineer who is able to look at the root cause. And this was part of my job is, root cause analysis. So, customers call us and, the chip doesn't work. There's a bit flips 1001, etc. And this is what memory does. It stores data, and data is digital. So ones and zero. So, it's very important to, look at the facts and be able to reproduce the problem. Anytime you're trying to debug a problem, you need to be able to reproduce it. So, that's number one step, so to speak. And at the end of the day, you have to get to the bottom of it for root cause analysis, because you are trying to basically prevent the same incident or same issue from happening again. And that's why, it costs money. When you have a product that you have now to basically do analysis and recall potentially, because there's possibly, a spec that has been violated, and, there's, performance or functional liability, right? I mean, the spec is a spec. So that's kind of where I'm from. It comes, I'm a very analytical person. As an engineer, we have to look at data, and, we work with clients, and, we often have to, always do trade-off analysis, and, we have competing priorities. You need cost is one, money. The product has to cost money, but, everybody wants cheap things. So you have cost, you have quality, and you have time to market. So those are the three knobs. Normally, as an entrepreneur, you have, quality, or your cost, and time. And, you have, as an entrepreneur yourself, with the idea, you are, you come to, so to speak, one of my, consulting business is, startup consulting, hardware design, or, hardware product development, architecture, from ideation to all the way to mass production. And I have my record. I've been successfully able, single-handedly, because I worked at startups most of my career, and, single-handedly, I would be able to take, a customer product all the way to production, with everything in between. So in this case, the idea is, it's not about my experience and, bragging about what I've done as an aerospace electronics engineer. It's more that, well, I'm an analytical person, and, the law itself is very simple. So, it's a triangle, right? It's a triangle. And essentially that's how the government operates. And the reason why I'm sharing this background is so people understand that, first of all, this is not for you to, bring your prejudice and subjective opinion that the person in question is incapacitated, because this is where my story is going to lead to. At one point, this is why I left Ottawa. But it's not about me leaving Ottawa and talking about my ordeal just yet. Let's go back to the facts. And so I worked in the industry. 2021, I decided to leave. My wife and I at the time, we've been having some, we didn't have any issues. We had a beautiful relationship. Like I said, I met the girl in 2008, January 25th, and we got married on the on the 31st of August, right? Or the 30th. I have to double check. I believe it was a Friday. I know it was a Friday. We went to church. I just have to double check if it was the 30th or the 31st. Anyways, 2012. So we, had gone previously to a church where we were denied. We were denied the union, the whole union, because I was born Muslim and she was born Catholic. I know, go figure, man. The priest looks at me, he's like, I'm an infidel. I cannot marry this woman. Like, fuck to you, man. Like, this woman, she wants to come here and she came by her own demise. She wants to, she's with me and she wants to marry me. Like, what is it to you that we are from two different denominations, last time I checked, we are people of faith. Faith is one, right? I don't care what you call your God. At the end of the day, it's faith. We talk to somebody in good faith. We are talking to each other in good faith. And this video is here in good faith because at the end of the day, that's how I talk. This is just natural. I'm the natural person. I can go from, talking mellow, low to speaking fast. Not because, well, guess what? It's just emotion. We're human beings. So, we got turned the first time by one of the priests. But, we go to I believe the Martyr Church on Main, near Main, and this is in Ottawa, across from St. Paul. There's a St. Paul College, University, you name it. So, I meet the guy, Father Jorge. We spent 3 hours. We were talking. We had a blast. The guy is, he's been to Jerusalem, the Holy Land, so to speak. He relies on indigenous Palestinian. We have a lot in common to talk about, Jesus and whatnot, right? 3 hours, and the guy loves, he loves me, and he gives us the blessing, and we have a wedding date, and we go to our wedding date on the, on Friday the 30th or the 31st, I can't remember. I just go to the calendar and figure it out. So, we get married, we have a beautiful relationship. So, but here's the thing, my wife had been, gone through a lot of hardship and, so to speak, stress because, she is now, trying to, and wanted to marry this person who has shown her nothing but love, nothing but respect. I not once forced my views over the girl. She would not be with me in the first place. I took care of her. I would drive her to work every day, to school, to make her food. 4 years, we were together. My mom would suddenly be like, oh, why are you doing too much to the girl? Well, I love the woman. What's it to you? I love this girl. What's it to you? Nothing wrong with loving somebody and genuinely treating that person and caring for that person. After all, why am I loving that? Why am I with that person in the first place? So as you can see, there's a lot of, cultural prejudice and baggage, on both sides. My mom, she looks at the girl and, her mom looks at me like, oh, we should not be together. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? So we get married. 2012, we actually, in August. So in June, I had gone and, basically because I have been a homeowner, a landlord since 2007. Now we're 2012. I've been in the industry now. I'm working. I'm making money. So, life is good. Life is good. Living the dream. And essentially, what happened, I go propose on her birthday, December the 15th. I go and I propose on her birthday night. And you know what? She was elated. But I never got the blessing from her, parents, because, God forbid, I'm not born Christian. I'm not Spanish, but I do speak, habla español. Sí, habla español. I speak Spanish. But it's not because me and my wife and I spoke Spanish. It's because I love learning languages, and that brings me closer to people. So we got married 2012. We had a blast. We had just moved into Aylmer. We bought a house, a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in Aylmer. I put the down payment. At the time I took money, against my own home, right? And I had, basically converted my mortgage to a home equity line of credit, so a revolving home equity line of credit. So, at the time my house was worth, or my condo was worth $200,000. So in the law, the bank can only give you up to 65% of the, market value. But because I have a mortgage now, they can give me up to 80%. So, we have a home equity line of credit on the condo. And then I have now basically another mortgage for the, the semi-detached home in Aylmer. And we bought that in 2012, around $225,000. So I coughed up 5% and, we moved in. in August when we got married, and we had a blast for the next 4 years. Or well, we so 2012, that is, yeah, that was 2012. We're happy for a while, and in 2014, I get the news that she was pregnant. Man, I remember we were going to Montreal, like, me and her were going to Montreal, and she gives me the news on the road. I was so fucking happy, man. Like, I was gonna be a father. I remember I was on the 174, the split between, we're going to Montreal, so there's a split 174. So you either go, towards Montreal, or you go towards Alfred Town and Rockland. So and I was at that turn, like at that like curve, and she tells me the news. I'm like, holy shit, the car makes. She gave me that news, and I, she's like, be careful, right? So anyway, that was the days. It's been many years ago, but I still had that memory with my ex. We were so happy. We were so happy, man. We did not care about what the world had to say. We were just so happy. And, I remember, like, we would be at restaurants. People think that we're just faking it. Like, we're just so in love. We're not faking shit, man. Love is genuine. And if you love somebody genuinely, it shows. You don't have to fucking tell somebody that, oh, I love this guy. It shows. So now, we're 2014. She gives me the news, and at the time, I had my mom living in my house, my condo, that is, by herself, 3-bedroomers, 2 bedrooms upstairs, and, you can make 2 bedrooms downstairs. It's really 4 bedrooms, but call it 3 bedrooms for now. 1 room is dedicated storage, so 3-bedroom. And I've, spent my life, supporting my mother, my family, as well as my beautiful wife at the time. We were married. Now this is our house. We were living in Aylmer. She was working for the government, and I got her first car. It was a Jetta, I remember. And then, we were, she's a hard worker, and, she loves me. She loved me at the time. At least last I checked, she wouldn't marry me if she didn't love me. So, we've gone against our both families, well, so to speak, because they did not see it was a good idea to get married. But it didn't matter. We got married. And for the next 10 years, we're happy. But, in 2014, before she delivered, we had that, discussion. I told my ex that, I have obligation towards my mother. I've been taking care of my mother. We've had some issues during our engagement because our parents, unfortunately, they're still stuck in the past. You don't have to be a Christian to marry a Christian. You don't have to be a Muslim to marry a Muslim. You don't have to be, forcing your views on other people to be with you. And, it's faith, good faith. I could care less what you believe in, as long as you have good faith and you understand the hierarchy. There's a Father, a Son, and a Holy Spirit. So the Father essentially is the head of the house, and that is, for the longest part, has been standard, agreed upon, understanding, right? It's just known. You're the father, the man of the house. That's what you called. The woman, she marries you. You go and you buy the house, because if you don't buy the house, the mother doesn't want to marry you. The girl does not want to marry you, Because nowadays, the marriage has been reduced to financial contract. It's like you make money, people want to marry you. You don't make money, you have no right to get married. That's bullshit. But anyways, so 2014, I talked to my ex at the time. I'm like, listen, girl, we have 3 bedrooms. My mom, she lives alone by herself. She had her own, health issues, and she's alone, and I don't want my mom to be alone. When we got married in 2012, previous to that, my sister had also, she was living with my mom, but she now has gone to Qatar and she got married, right? And so my mom is alone now. It's since I got married in 2012 August. My sister left, I believe, 2012 December, around that time. So she had been gone to Qatar and wanted to get married with the same stooge that when I went to Syria in 2010 for her and the man to get engaged, suddenly he's not sure. After 7 years of talking to my sister online. Like, go figure, man, what kind of stooge is that? Like, you love my sister, no? So you love my sister, you keep her hostage for 7 years, with her emotion towards you, and then, we show up in 2010, 11, that's when, 2010, December 24th, that's when I went to Syria, and then, I was there for the next seven weeks. So in 2011, early in the year, he changes his mind that, he's not ready to get engaged. Motherfucker works for Al Jazeera. He makes good money, minimum $100,000 a year, minimum. So anyways, he changes his mind, and then my sister goes back to, Canada with my mom. I get stuck in Syria because of obligatory military service, because I was indigenous Palestinian born in the city of Damascus, and the law at the time, I must serve, military service, compulsory military service. But, if you're a single child to your father, you are exempt, but you have to go through the paperwork, right? It's like they don't know fucking that I'm single son to my father, right? Like they have the family book, right? Like qaid al-nufus, so to speak. It's like, family book, you have the father, the mother, and the children, right? And that has been the case since, beginning of time. There's a man of the house. You look at the nature, there's always a male dominant, figure that is basically the leader, right? And the man is the leader of the house. It's not about, telling the woman what to do, but he is leading the way. He is the one deciding where to go in life, and, she is supporting him in that mission. And that is the idea between a man and a woman. Each to his own. A woman is not obligated to follow her man. Go. By all means, figure your own life. But do not marry somebody if you're not willing to follow that person's vision, because at the end of the day, there's a leader, and I am a leader myself in my own house. It's not because I do not want a woman to lead me, no. Come up with a better idea, you by all means, be my guest. But if you don't have a better idea, because you don't have this, well, guess what? You'll have to follow me, because I'm a man, and I can figure it out on my own. I can sleep on the street, you cannot. I can fend off for myself, you cannot. You need a man to defend you. That's why a man walks in front of a woman. So there are values, and unfortunately in the Western world and, secular French civil law, so to speak, they are trying to basically, for everything, they're trying to make it like, oh, well, it's kosher. It's not. It's not. Your civil code is secular. You do not believe in the creator. So your laws are not going to basically, change my views on who I am and what I believe in. The Constitution safeguard those, fundamental rights and freedom of, belief and, association and just, thoughts. And guess what? That same triangle, when you go to the triangle, you have the supreme law of the land is up top, right? And then you have provincial laws below that, acts. You have Highway Traffic Acts. In case of Ontario, you have the Highway Traffic Act 2000. And in case of Alberta, why do I know that? Because I'm here in Alberta, as I have to, escape, tyranny and prejudice and discrimination, defamation, discriminatory bias against an indigenous man looking like me, right? So, in Alberta, it's called Safety Traffic Act, right? Safety Traffic Act 2000. So those are, called statute law. Because why are they called statute law? Because, well, they are acts of parliament, legislature. So they are active parliament. So, the law, before it becomes a law, it goes through House of Commons or legislature as simply as a bill. The bill goes through the review, it's passed, people vote on that. Yes versus no, majority win. Then now it becomes an act. And then the act, after a while, if it gets that royal assent, it becomes a law. Yeah, it's not difficult, and that is the triangle. That's how the government operates. You have the government, basically have the parliament that dictates the law, right? And then you have law executive, because you need to be able to enforce these laws. And then you have the, essentially the judiciary, which is the court system, and that's how, you go about basically, putting your case before the court, because somebody has done you wrong, and you must have that equal side triangle. And, the binding element is trust. And if you have no trust, contract is void. It's very simple concept to understand. The government could not operate without the framework, what we call constitution. So the constitution is what allows us to, or allows the government to operate within this framework of, the trust. So you have the government being the trustee, then you have the law enforcement being the executor, and then you have yourself as the beneficiary of the taxpayer system that we call kind of trust, right? So Parliament dictate law, law executive to enforce these laws, judiciary to hold the government and the law informs accountable, and to be able to go about and get justice when you are mistreated, whether it's the king or whether it's some other schmuck on the road, right? When you are done wrong, you have the right to go and sue and seek damages, and this is kind of where we are. So that's kind of the the first 20 minutes as to who I am and what I did. And 2021, essentially, I left the corporate world because we were going through some financial hardship. So in 2014, my wife, she gives me the news that she's pregnant. I'm so happy. 2015, January 25th, the very same day that we met 7 years before that. So we met in 2008, January 25th, and she even made a scrapbook. I remember she still have that scrapbook at her house. I had given her a beautiful rose and a drawing, a sketch on a piano. Because guess what? When we first met, she told me she was getting to know me, and I do sketch and I play the guitar, but I was 210 pounds. She did not believe a word I said, because I am Arab, right? She knew I was Arab. She didn't know if I was Lebanese or not, but she knew I was Arab. And when the first we met, well, she has been essentially going to St. Pat High School, where there's tons of Lebanese. They're not Arab, they're Lebanese, right? But guess what? They speak Arabic. They don't speak Lebanese. The Arabs, the Phoenicians, the Stooges are not. The Lebanese are not Arabs, Phoenicians, okay? But there are indigenous Syrian who are located in Mount Lebanon. And that's the distinction between Lebanon as the country versus the indigenous land. We have a mountain called Mount Lebanon. So anyways, she's been, basically going to St. Pat's, and she had bad experience with the Lebanese there because they're full of shit. Everybody comes and they pump their own tires. So when I told her that, essentially I am, I'm an artist, I play the guitar and I sketch, and she looks at me, this guy's too big to, he's a dumblehead. He must be a dumblehead. That's stereotype. But guess what? I showed up and we had a challenge that I would draw her something. I would sketch her something. She requested that I sketch her, a rose. So I do that. I sketched a rose and I sketched the rose and placed it on top of the piano. So we had a very good relationship, getting to know each other. We first met, we gone through, years before we got married, and, we had gone through hardship because of her family had inflicted and subjected her into a lot of stress and anxiety and just prejudice just because, she loves this man. Her heart is not her own, man. It's inalienable to her. Inalienable. Her heart beats without her control. And my heart beats without my control. It's inalienable to myself as well. So my heart and her heart, they're beating together and we are in love. And that's the problem. They don't want you to be in love. Your parents are upset, her parents are upset, and now they want to see you sad. Like when they see her daughter, when they see their daughter crying, mission accomplished. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like she was happy, she was smiling the minute, I show up at the door. Now we're giving her shit because she's coming with me in the car. Like, what's it to you people? And she's in the car crying for the next hour. I'm trying to calm her down and, just comfort her. She forgets all these experiences that we shared together, right? We've gone to Montreal, we've gone to places. Listen, we got married in 2012. I've taken her to Mexico and Dominican and, the other parts where essentially we would go every year and celebrate our honeymoon every year in celebration of and commemoration of our marriage. 2019 was the only year we could not go. I wasn't able to afford it. I was going through a lot of financial hardship because I have two places now. I have my place, my mom, she lives at, and we have our home in Elmer now. And we were renting another house, close to my, in-laws because, this is the thing in Canada you have to understand. If you are working, you are the man working, okay? And the woman wants to work, no problem. She can go to work. She has the right to work. I'm not here to tell a woman what to do, but you have to understand I'm the head of the house. And I'm trying to find the best interest of us as a family. And my wife would start complaining in 2015, we got the daughter, and then, I had just left my job in 2015 November. I had just left Sidance. And, why did I leave? I left because I'm not being appreciated. I do not want to work for stooges. I have provided millions of dollars in value, and I'm only getting $85,000. And on top of that, I'm not being treated with respect. So guess what? I leave. I quit. And I started my own business as a consultant. And I did actually have clients at work. But you know what? They did not pay me because I'm a single man. It's okay. I have the evidence. I have the proof. So I believed in my vision. I know I could do a lot more. Not because I'm smarter than others. It's because I put myself into it. I put my heart. I put my soul into it. I'm passionate. When I do work, when I play, when I work, when I love, I'm passionate about anything I do. I have undivided attention. That's why I talk. Like I'm talking to somebody, it's not because, you're seeking attention. I'm not seeking attention. It's etiquette, basic etiquette, respect. Respect is earned. You talk to me, I talk to you. Look in my eyes, I look into your eyes. And, eyes don't lie. So, this is 2000, essentially, 15. I tell my wife before she delivers that I had, pledged with her. I'm like, listen, my mom, she can live with us, move in with us. Because you just cannot afford two homes, man. One mortgage and the other one is a line of credit. Like the line of credit it's not the interest, but it adds up. 1,000 here, 500 there, blah, blah, blah. Like I was making $125,000 in 2021 before I left. Right? I had got the job in 2019, October, just after Thanksgiving Day. I remember that because I had left numerous times throughout my career. So first time I was let go in 2011 because the company I was working for, the startup Clear, was acquired by an American company that simply came in, they swooped in, they stole the IP and they shut down the operation. So there's no more R&D. I got laid off with the other, 10 other people, I believe. The whole office at the time, when I joined them, there were 17 people. Now they let go 10 people or so. I was one of the lucky people that were let go. And then I move on to basically, I had a gig, a stint to work on the headphones, wireless headphones for no other than the rapper 50 Cent. And that's through Zephyr Audio, a company that basically was contracted to design and basically bring into market the SMS Street by 50 cents. So that's SMS Audio, the actual company name. And then it was Street by 50 cents. Those were the headphones. That at the time you had Dr. Dre with his Beats, right? Where, you know, his company was bought by Apple for like $1 billion. So you had Bluetooth, basically technology. That's what Beats, Dr. Dre headphone were utilizing. And then you had, you know, Clear, whatchamacallit, 50 cents coming in, trying to basically compete with the existing brand, the incumbent, and he is using Clear technology, because Clear basically essentially had it's a proprietary technology for wireless audio transmission. You know, high fidelity audio, CD quality, 44.1 kilohertz, so to speak, sampling rate, and then it's lossless, right? It's lossless compression. So, you know, it's perfect. And, you know, battery life is better. So anyways, that's kind of like when I got laid off in, I believe it was March 2011, I worked on that project and till 3 months really. So from March till June, so to speak. And at one point I had to walk away from the contract because, you know, like you're not delivering, man. Like I'm delivering, you're not paying me. Like what's going on? And essentially, you know, I decided it was not consistent income. You know, I need to really start looking for a job. So I had been an application engineer, you know, for Clear Semiconductor. And then I've been to China, Japan. Like 3 weeks into my hiring, I was in China. I was flown to China because there was a mass production issue. And, you know, I came back, hail hero, hail AJ, right? I was able to solve the problem, mass production problem. And that's only because, you know, it's not just coincidence, man. You know, you go and you analyze, you take, you know, with you some, you know, you understand how the product works and you just go debug, you know, it's just, producing the problem. First thing is to produce the problem, and then you'll be able to understand the root cause. And then once you understand the root cause, you can actually now mitigate against that, right? Resolve the problem. So that's what you're interested in, resolving the problem. So that was Clear essentially. And then in 2011 June, I joined Paradigm. That was basically to focus on my, you know, hardware design skills as a, you know, designer. So now I'll be focused on design as opposed to customers. In the case of, you know, application engineer, I'm more of a consultant. I do work 40%, you know, mostly. I would say 50-50, right? But it was more closer to 40% with clients and 60% in the lab doing debug, you know, characterization, report, testing, this and that, right? And the idea is you need to understand how the product works so you can actually now offer advice and be a consultant to the client. So you're a subject matter expert. And that's how I was able to actually, you know, score and land my contract gig with Zephyr Audio at the time when I was working for the project for 50 Cent, right? The headphones I mentioned to you about. So I know I start working for Paradigm for 2 years almost. You know, I'm there 2 years and a half. So from from June 2011 till December 2013. So it's called 2014. So 2 years and a half. That's when I joined Silence in January 2014, and I was there till the next almost 2 years. I left in November 2000 or October 2015. So almost 2 years, and that's kind of, you know, my experience. You know, I move around the industry. So now Silence is semiconductor, and again, before you know it, I was a trusted, you know, subject matter expert when it comes to proposing, you know, custom and innovative solution for basically, you know, non-volatile memory IP cores that would go into chips. Every single chip in this world, you know, smart chip, that is a smart chip. Every single smart chip in this world, you know, they must have non-volatile memory, and it would be me. I'm the guy who can tell you if there's a problem, you know, integrating this memory, and I would be the subject matter expert helping you, whether it's Texas Instrument, Apple, you know, analog devices, you know, IDT, semiconductor, you name it, right? All these like big names, brand names, you know, across the world, from Russia to Europe to you name it. We did not deal directly with Russian, companies, but, you know, we've had clients in Ukraine and clients in, you know, Europe that did work, right, for Russian companies, so to speak. And, you know, it's not difficult, man, to understand this. So, so I left Silence. I left Silence because of discrimination, prejudice, bias, because guess what? I'm not being respected for my intellectual, you know, for my intelligence, so to speak, and my intellectual contribution. So I leave. You know, I had saved the company, you know, and proposed ideas to the company that can generate millions of dollars in revenue. And it's very simple, right? You know, the product, when it's good, it sells itself. But suddenly the sales guys can only sell things that we do not have readily available. right, off the shelf. They want to go custom design, custom IP, and it takes money because guess what? The industry works on commission. As a sales rep, you work on commission. 20% is a standard, industry commission. So, if you're putting the efforts, what would be a better option for you as a sales guy? Selling a license for $20,000, 20%, that's only for $1,000 in your pocket, or simply, not going after, a $250,000, $500,000, custom solution deal where now you're pocketing, anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. You did nothing. The work has been done by the engineers, testers. You've done nothing as a sales guy. So now the company has lost its focus, its vision on what matters. And now they're chasing a dollar. Because semiconductor is very difficult. I mean, you need millions of dollars before you get your first chip. And that's the research and development that you need to pay for engineers, resources, R&D, licensing. You need like EDA tools, man, like electronic design automation tools. They cost fortune, man. Like you have Synopsys now. Synopsys has bought Cydance or acquired Cydance back in 2000, I believe, 16, because I left in 2015, and then there was talks at the time that they finalized a deal in 2016, and then they bought the competition, Kilopass, 2017. So I am well versed in the industry because I have the experience. I can speak from my own experience. I don't need to read you a resume. I don't need to read you a book. I'm talking from my own experience. That's just life. So 2017, I worked as a hardware manager for a startup company called Nuvio, but they are known by the brand name Tableau, and that's essentially your personal video recorder, box essentially. And they have, they had two versions at the time: the Dual, which they had 2 channels, and they had the Quad, which had four channels. And when I joined, they were just, on version 1. They were about to go to version 2. This is their flagship product, and they had the CEO of the company at the time, who happens to have worked for Alcatel at one point as a marketing guy, but now he is the CEO of this company called Nuvio. The brand name, they run by the brand name Tableau. And then the guy, like 6 months into, they had an issue for 6 months. They were almost shutting down the company because the PCB, the application processor would always freeze, and like nothing would work. There's some issues. For 6 months, he actually fired his own partner, the hardware director, which was the co-founder of the company, because for 6 months they were unable to actually solve the problem. And it was very trivial. Very trivial. That was a freaking resistor value that should have been one value. They put the wrong value, and now your voltage rail, instead of being 1.1 volt, it's 1.0 volt, and that brings you at the very edge of the lower threshold for your DDR3 memory, right? They're operating at 1.1 volt plus minus 10%. There you go. If you're at 1 volt, well, you're off the spec already, and nothing works. This is why engineers must always go back to the spec. And when we design a system, we go back, we understand there's a tolerance, there's a spec, and we like to be in the middle. But the spec is you have a minimum and you have a maximum, right? But you would like to be in the middle. Same thing with semiconductor. There's a window, process window. When you manufacture, there's a process window, and then ideally you would want to be in the middle. But there's always manufacturing variation, process variation, and that's the idea of specs. And when you do testing, the idea is you want to make sure that when you're testing your product coming off the assembly line, the conveyor belt, you are testing to the specs, because if it's outside the specs, it's a liability, because there's a possibility that this, gadget or this, system does not function because it was designed for a spec. But if the spec is outside, if you test and the results are outside the spec, this is anomaly. And you need to understand if it's one off, and that's why you have statistics, and process control comes into the place, and you have Six Sigma, like you have so many things that comes into manufacturing. Manufacturing is not just engineering, it's also art. That's why China, is the world powerhouse when it comes to manufacturing. We North America have lost their ability to manufacture jack shit, man. So this is the problem, when you outsource, and it's in a way good when you outsource things because you can get to market faster, but at the same time now you are chasing the dollar, and the quality will suffer because you have no control over the quality unless you have complete oversight. Vertical integration. So most people now in the semiconductor industry, they are fabless, meaning they only come up with the design, with the IP, and then they contract manufacture that to a company across the world. Is called Taiwan Semiconductor Corporation, TSMC, and that's why there's tension between China and TSMC, in Taiwan, because Taiwan wants their sovereignty and China does not want. It's a mainland China does not want acknowledge and recognize the sovereignty of the child island, and that's just basic laws, right? I mean, that's the fact. So it's not political, but this is kind of the knowledge that I have. I am well versed in the industry. I understand geopolitics. I understand technology, semiconductors. Without semiconductors, you could not have any chips. I cannot have this device that I'm using. It's a shitty technology at the end of the day, because I'm recording now. It's 40 minutes, and there will be like gigabytes worth of data, gigabytes. So if I post this, of course, when I go post this, and now you're watching this video as my part video testimony, because again, we have to give you a story, right? There has to be a character here that is who is AJ, because right now the allegation that I'm at large. I have 5 criminal charges before the court in Ottawa. 5 criminal charges before the court in Ottawa, allegedly for driving suspended driver license. That's how the whole incidents started. But this is again a background as to who AJ is, right? I'm an Indigenous Palestinian born refugee. I come here to live the Canadian dream, which I did. Right now it has turned to a nightmare. The Canadian nightmare. It's not because I say so. It's because of what I've been subject to from a prejudice, right? Discrimination, defamation. I mean, come on, racism, outright racism. Maybe just the way I look, right? I mean, look, my grandpa's out there in the picture, right? I mean, he's from India. I'm from Damascus. I was born in Damascus. I'm indigenous to the land of so-called the Holy Land called Palestine. But it doesn't matter, So why are you coming at me just because I know too much information, perhaps, right? So this is kind of the person you're dealing with. And, the Stooges, now, just before I go into my court case and what is happening. So in 2017, when I was working for that company, Tableau, like they had their product, right? Their prototype, 90% finished. Oh, I'm going to give you that. 90% was finished. But if it wasn't for my, work, for my passion, for my ethics that I so-called, that's not my word. That's the CEO of the time, I held the bull by its horn, right? I owned it. We were able. So when I joined in June 2017. I remember that I joined in June. I'm trying to think, because if it was 2016 or 17. So 2015, I had left Sidance in November. And then, 7 months later. So it must have been 2006. I have to double check my resume. But anyway, the point is, so I joined the company, and they've been there for 6 months trying to get this prototype to work, and it wasn't working. There was problems left and right and center. There's problems. There's, issues, but they had lost their hardware engineer, their director, because remember, they had an issue in generation and previous to that, and Gen 1 product, and they almost shut down the company because for 6 months they couldn't figure it out, right? That's when I was talking about the memory and the voltage rail. It has to be 1.1. They had it at 1.0, and you're outside the spec, and Bob's your uncle, nothing is working. So it took them 6 months to figure that out, right? Whereas in my case, there were a bunch of problems, right, inherent to the design and the layout of the PC board, right? And I remember there was a watchdog problem, and the idea is we had just received version 2 or spin number 2 of the PCBs, and things were still not working. And the reason why we had the version is to add a circuit and correct some bugs and essentially allow the application processor to reset itself, because at one point the product had this issue anomaly that was known. After a while, it would just freeze and hang up. So to avoid the customer from coming and watching TV, because remember, this is like a a Tableau, this is like a personal video recorder, and this is similar to your Roku box, right? So now we're selling this gadget, and if you're watching video or you're recording and it just froze, hang, well, it's a bad customer experience. So what we do, we leave kind of a workaround. So okay, if the chip hangs because it's non-responsive, so to speak, there's a watchdog timer that basically pings the chip, and if nothing happens, then there's a problem. It's been frozen. So now we issue an auto reset. And that kind of was the workaround that, we kind of put until we figure out the actual root cause of the problem. And there was a plethora of problems in the design from not just, electrical and, hardware point of view, but also from a product point of view. The thermal mitigation, the thermal management was bad. They had designed this, so to speak, like hot skillet, like an aluminum, like a plate, hot plate, like a plate, so to speak. And then they want to put it on top of the chip, because the chip, once it's running, it generates a lot of heat, right? You have to dissipate, you have to manage that heat, So I come up with a novel design, and I have to work within the constraints, because we had already frozen the mold for the plastics and, for everything else. And I had to work within what I have. I had to be resourceful. And I was one man. Within 6 months, we were in production. I joined in June. By February, we are in production now. And we had the first run of 2000 PCB to be run. And unfortunately, we still had a problem that, at one point the chip would freeze, right? Or unable to read from the boot area. And again, within 2 weeks, not 6 months, within 2 weeks, we had big problems actually. There were 4 problems masked into one and the same symptom, essentially. You're looking at 4 different problems, but they all have the same symptoms. So from the PCB to the chip, there was like the PCB itself, for example. When you get the PCB, there are pads that the chip, when it's placed on top of it, it actually gets, it makes contacts, and that's a circuit that you actually design and you draw on the software, right? And then, the manufacturing company, they take this package and then basically they manufacture the board layer by layer, and that's how you draw your circuit, essentially what the layers will be like. Now, if there's an issue with the manufacturing process for one of the batch, you're missing a copper somewhere, so you are missing a connection. So that was one issue. The other issue was essentially we had a faulty chip, because the chip we're getting is a SSD, solid state drive, so to speak. It's memory, SSD, right? 64 gigabyte. But unfortunately, for that particular batch, I had received an email from Kingston. It was the company in question. I was using their chip SSDs, and they tell me that batch, because it's coming from the Philippines somewhere else, they had a flood and it was contaminated, so the chip was bad. It was not guaranteed that it would boot, because there's boot area. The chip must always guarantee be able to ping that address and then boot from that address, address 00, so to speak, right? So anyways, so that's the second problem. Then the third problem is the manufacturing process itself, because when you place a chip on the board, you must apply a solder paste. It's like, toothpaste, but it's solder paste. So now when the chips are placed, and this is all automated, by the way, automatic, placement machine. That's why you pay, right, to go to a manufacturing company. So, there's that where essentially you have to optimize the amount of, paste, solder paste, so the chip actually can, be soldered onto the board. Now, this chip in particular was a BGA, so ball grid array. And they are more susceptible to, like a crack ball joint, so to speak, because, if the solder is not hot enough and then you place the chip on top and then you have a cold solder joint, so, well, that cracks, because as the board heats, right, the board is going to heat as it works, and then when it's not working, it cools down. So you have thermal cycling, and the idea is this: you get a lot of stress introduced. And mechanically, you could actually lose and crack the solder joints, and therefore you're screwed. There's no connection, there's no boot. So those 3, so the PCB itself, the chip, I said, the batch was bad. Then you have the soldering, and then on top of that, you have the software, the application software that actually is stored. And, if you have an issue because the boot vector is not correct or some other things, well, guess what? And we need to get the support from the company. So there are 4 issues, and, I had to just be diligent and then do my due diligence and analysis, so to speak, as to what is the problem, the root cause, because we now have 2,000 chips that we need to simply, bake and we're cooking, so to speak, right? It's a manufacturing process. So we need to assemble and, basically test and go through the packaging process and then, ship. And this is inventory. So I was responsible to come up with a plan, mitigation plan, right? Containment plan, action plan, because now we have 900 boards, and the issue was discovered. And within 2 weeks, I had to go through from halting, shutting down the manufacturing line, right? Because remember, we contract manufacture that to a company, and they have to also run their machines, their machinery. They're making money every time their machine is running. They don't make money when the machine is running. All right. So now I tell the people, okay, please shut down, halt the production line, because we have an issue we need to resolve. And I do so in 2 weeks. By April, I had successfully managed to bring, 50 units for early marketing reviewers. The CEO comes and shakes my hands. Suddenly now he wants me to do everything under the sun. Oh, I can do everything, my friend. I can do everything. I did everything. I got you here. But don't cheap out. So I tell the guy, this was 2016, man. He asked me for how much I want. I said 130. That's my worth. I was making 85. I think he was 85. He was giving me 85. But I have proven myself. I'm an engineering manager. You better start paying me for my worth. My worth is the ability to basically solve problems, business problems, and saving you money, and avoid you problems, potential recall. So yes, he cheaped out and I left. And that's basically the crux of the matter, because when you cheap out, you don't respect your people, you do not appreciate your people leave. Nobody stays in a shitty relationship, be it marriage, be it work, be it anything, right? And the same applies to the government. We have this contract between myself and the government as a Canadian citizen. Remember, I'm a Canadian citizen, my passport, So, it took 3 years before, and 2 years prior to that, where my father had to apply and be accepted or admitted and given a, immigration visa, granted an immigration visa. So we came here in 1999, October 26, as I said. I was already started my high school, 2000 January. I finished in 2003. January, I started my working at Tim Horton. My first job was Tim Horton, 2003, from January all the way to August before I went to university. So I've been working. I've been contributing to society, to different companies. Now I leave this company because, I joined, I started my agent moving before that. I was making a lot more money doing moving, stress-free, as opposed to going to the friggin' office, working for somebody and being told what to do when they don't themselves have a clue as to what needs to be done. I'm the engineer. I have the knowledge. I have the experience. And you gotta start listening, my friend. You better start listening and, respecting my intelligence, respecting my experience and my record. My record speaks for itself. So 2019, essentially I get this job at a design service company in Ottawa, design firm that essentially caters to, startups. So before that, actually, 2018 I had 2017 I had worked. Remember, I left Nuvio. And then for a little while I worked on my own business as a mover. But then I joined another company called Brash. And, I had known one of the founders I have known since university days. He has done his PhD in, mechanics, whereas I just stopped at my Bachelor of Engineering in aerospace electronics. But we've known each other because of the gym. Like I would be going to the gym, he would come sometimes. So we were not classmates. We were really just gym buddies. And, I remember when I was working in the industry, he's still doing his PhD, thesis, and then, trying to get a company made out of that. And now, they have their own startup, so to speak, a design service company or consulting firm. But they had no guy doing hardware. They had zero experience, zero knowledge of how a PCB is actually manufactured or designed or made. I applied for the job thinking to myself, well, hallelujah, perfect, design, firm opportunity. So I get to join this design firm and start working on various, small gadgets for different startups. So we were a startup ourselves, but now we are helping other startups because of our collective experience. We have the industrial designer, we have the PhD mechanic, we have the other guy, PhD mechanic, and then you have now the aerospace electronics system design engineer. So we were a team. And then we had the co-op guy, very, very cool guy. But again, for 6 months, I'm slaving, I'm working 17 hours. I was working overtime because we have a lot of work. We need to prove ourselves as a company. I was promised to be a partner. And I agreed to a shitty salary, not because I'm, 65K, come on, man. Like, this was 2018 now. Like, I've already established myself. I have experience, tons of experience by now, right? Like 10 years of experience if you want to, include my co-op experience. And then basically, I leave after 6 months. I have successfully got few products to market. Well, I helped them to get to market. I wasn't there by the time they got to market, but I was instrumental in getting them to that step. So I leave because, again, there was no appreciation, lack of appreciation. I felt not from my friend, but, from the collective partners. Because, if you tell somebody that I would be a partner and I have proven myself to be worthy of being a partner, I have skin in the game. I was working overtime, right? I've delivered. And, simply you walk away on your own word, breach of trust. I leave the company. I still talk to one of the founders or partners because, it's nothing personal. He's my friend. It's not his sole decision to introduce me as a partner or not. He has to get the blessing of the two other partners. And, there was no willingness because clearly there was lack of appreciation. So I'm not forcing my views and I leave. That's when basically I left and I joined another company and I started making 125K, right away on the spot. I showed up to the door. No resume. I had just applied to a technical project manager position. They had a senior hardware design position available or posted as well, but I go and shoot for the technical project manager. I knew I got the job, but there were some people who did not wish to see a 35 years of age engineer in a management position. But I had been a manager previously at Nuvio, R&D hardware manager. So I know how to go from point A to point Z. And I know how to take you from idea to production. I know how to negotiate. I know how to, I've been involved in all aspects of product development cycle, from, like I said, ideation to design, test, procurement, negotiation, contract negotiation, and all sort of things, all the way to packaging, and then making sure that you have the label, the correct label, that now you are able to actually go and and certification, so you can actually sell your product online, on the market. Yeah, I'm well versed. I understand embedded software to IoT to the cloud. It's simple. It's very simple. You just have to keep you have to keep track, and and just focus on the bigger picture. And that's my gift. I can deep dive details, and I can look up from a high level, and understand what's happening. So 2000 that was 2019, and again, that was, I think I was there from 2019 October all the way to April 2021. And that's where we are today. Took an hour to kind of give you, a life story, but that's important. You have to understand who AJ is, because now, the allegation before the court, they are trying to make a malice out of me for society, where I have all this experience, tons of knowledge. But some ignorant, schmuck, incompetent police officers, now they have to basically throw the book at me, and they could not. So 2021, I had been going through a lot financially, because I told you I left my job a few times. When I was working for companies, I have not been paid my worth. 2019 came really as a bless, and I was making 125K. My wife at the time, my ex-wife, she was making like 85, so to speak. So between the two of us, we were making easily over $200,000, right? So there should be no issue for us to struggle financially. But because I understand how finance work, I had bought my first house, a mortgage. I understand. Basically, I was the guy managing all the finances of the house. We did not have a joint account, but my wife and I, she would always contribute. And, because I had a home equity line of credit, I would always transfer my paycheck to my home equity line of credit. Every time I get paid, and my wife would get paid, she would also transfer me, $500, $1,000 a month, always. Because I wasn't asking her to give me all her money. In fact, over 12 years, or 10 years, I should say, she only contributed $100,000. I contributed over $350,000. But it's not about who contributed most. This is a ship that I and my wife are sailing through, so to speak, in life. This is the ship of life. And I want the best for us. And if she is not qualified, you do not hire, a junior engineer to design you your house, build your house. Same thing. You don't get somebody who does not have the experience to do, and you entrust them to bring your product to the market. They are not going to. They don't understand. They have not enough experience, and they don't understand what kind of potential challenges they may face. So my wife, she studied English and history. Guess what? I finished aerospace electronics. So she did major history minor in English, and now she works for the government of Canada. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, listen, I'm not insulting your intelligence, but you do not have the knowledge that I have. You do not understand how the government works. You do not understand how banks and how credit works. So now I tell her, I have been pledging with her since 2014 that we have a daughter now, let's just go, and my mom, she can live with us. But she did not agree to that, because she had her own concerns. And granted, I do share her concern, but we could at least try. As the man of the house, it would be my responsibility to make sure that my wife feels and remains the queen of the house. That's what I believe. I have told my mom that you're coming to live with us, but this is our house. You have nothing to tell us what to do. You come and respect the house, respect us. You're free to do what you want, but you must respect us first and foremost. Of course, my mom, she is hard-headed, and she'd rather live by herself, on her own, in my house that I have to pay for, and costing me money, right? And my wife as well. She's upset the fact that we're going through some financial hardship, because I have left my job 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Because again, it's not that I don't want to work. I refuse to work for assholes. Simple. Very simple. I have this intelligence. I choose where to utilize it and apply it, and work with people that I can resonate with. So 2021, all these years, I've been living with my wife. In 2021, I take her to the Dow's Lake. We like I said, my wife and I, or my ex, we really had a good amicable relationship. Before even we got divorced. What happened was, financially is not the issue. So she now thinks that, now she's doing things on her own. Well, no shit. You want me to work, make money, And I was working for a company that was only giving me 65K, and then I had to go and find another job that now is paying me 125K. Great. But guess what? We are in debt, and we got to pay. So we are always in debt. Just because you make $200,000, where after tax, between the two of us, I was netting, or I was pocketing close to $6,500 a month. Call it $7,000, and she was netting close to $3,000. So we were getting $10,000. That's a lot of money, man. Cash, net. I've been the guy doing all the taxes. So I remember, like in 2021, I filed our taxes. I submitted 125 for my net income, or well, not my net, my gross, and that's the T4. And then herself as well. She pocketed, like, I think it was like 85, 90. So that's what happens. Like, you are going to speak facts, and you have to take the root cause of the issue. So if her issue was financial, well, guess what? I was making money at one point, but it takes time to get out of the hole that you have inflicted on yourself, because you have refused to have my mom living with us. So you are causing me hardship, you're causing me stress, and I have to, provide to you and my mother. I cannot put my mom in a home, senior homes. It's against my belief. My mom, she raised me. I will take care of my mother till the day I die. So and she's been living with me since 2007. I mean, you have no reason to not have my mother living with us. I mean, I told you, if this was your mother, I would take care of your mother myself. But you are the Christian. You are the Catholic. That you're supposed to be so tolerant to other people believe, right? I went with you to church to marry you. I could care less where we marry. I love you. I loved you at the time as my woman, but I no longer love you as my woman. I love you as the child. As the mother of my child. I love you as a person. I don't wish you ill, but clearly you have been responsible, and you have been, complicit, so to speak, with the government of Canada, Quebec, Ontario, and their stooges to get me to live this nightmare right now. And I'm not pushing charges against my ex, because she's innocent, I believe. She's ignorant of the law herself, and she remains the mother of my children. Well, one child, my daughter child, which I have been separated from by no other than the school board, right? South Halls Elementary School and the Western School Board, because suddenly, my issue starts in November 17th. So now let me take you back to the event as to what actually happened, right? Well, actually, before, let me just finish on my experience. So 2021, I sit down with my ex. We go Dow's Lake. I tell her, listen, I have a plan. I'm not happy for us to always be scraping. I'm working, and you feel like you're a single mom. You're always doing activities on your own. Not because I don't want to be around my wife and my kid. I used to take them every single week, 2 to 3 times minimum, to restaurants. We would go to Gabrielle Pizza. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about the restaurant where we go, but I'm taking them every week, minimum 2 to 3 times every year. I would be taking her to Mexico, to Dominican Republic. It's only 2019 that I have not taken her to a vacation. I bought her the car. First car I bought was a gift. Then 2015, she gets to buy a brand new car, a Toyota, off the friggin' dealership, 2015 model, because she was pregnant and we were getting a child. So I've always put her first. I've always, made sure that she was, in the latest and the greatest and well taken care of, because, I'm a man. If I drive an older car, I get stopped on the road because my car did not work. It's an older vehicle. I know what to do. I've got a flat tire. If the engine stopped, whatever, I know what to do as a man. But she, on the other hand, she needs a vehicle that takes her from point A to point B reliably and safely. And now she has a child. I need to make sure that we have a vehicle that, I know my wife doesn't have to be, stressed about, because, previous car, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, something broke. Okay, forget with the old cars. That's why we got a new car for the family. And she was the driver. Now, 2021, we're at Dow's Lake. I tell her my plan. I said, listen, I've been working. I've been paying off my balance of my line of credit. I believe I managed to bring it down to $90,000. And this is out of a $160,000 balance. So we had the other house at the time before, and the balance of the mortgage was close to $150,000. So combined, we have less than $240,000 worth of debt. But we have 2 properties. I mean, combine the 2 properties. One is worth $450,000 easily. The other one could have been easily, sold for, upward of $385,000 to $400,000. And that was the market for you in 2021. I mean, it was a bidding war everywhere, right? So, but again, she does not reason. She does not understand that life is a journey, and then you have to take the best out of it. But now she, because of her ignorance, because of her inability to reason and think and find the best solution for us as a family, she was only concerned about her own, right? Her own well-being, not the family's well-being. So that's fine. I don't force her. I cannot force my mom to live with us. But now, do not complain when your man is not home, because I'm working at Tim Hortons. After I go to work, for my full-time job, I was making 125K. I was still working contract work, because the same company that I left, remember, they were paying me 65K. Guess what? Now they're working with me, and they're my client. And that's right. And they had no reason but to agree to my terms, because, guess what? No this, you got no product. So I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and I've proven myself. But you guys are so cheap. You could not, essentially, recognize and respect my contribution. So now, you do not want me to be your partner. Too bad. Your loss. So that was 2021. So I had spoken to my ex at the time. We were in the front of the Dow's Lake. I told her I have a plan. I plan to go and just do my own consultancy and contract work. And I started looking for jobs. And I figured, you know what, you need the time. You need the time for you to figure out exactly what you want in life. And this is 2021, in the midst of the COVID, we were going through, the whole country, the whole world was going through a lot of shit. So, August, I start working on this, electrical vehicle, contract project. It's for, utility application on the farm. And, around, September timeframe, I come across this, reskilling, right? So essentially it's a program that the government of Ontario had introduced to, essentially train and, add new skills. So it's like reskilling, right? So reskill. And I did web development. I chose to do web development because, I understand web, I understand technology, but, I just wanted to always be able to build my own apps. So I figured, I'll just do web development and, it will help me do other things. So now adding more skills to myself. So I have hardware under control. I know software embedded. I don't have to write code, but I understand how to read code and debug and all that. So I learned to read and understand code because I'm a programmer. From a young age, I've always written my own program, C, C++ or C or Microsoft, Visual Basic, you name it, Excel for God's sake. It doesn't matter, It's not about what you use. It's the end product, the functionality is what matters. It's not what tools you use. I could care less what programming language you write your application with. If it works, it works. Nobody cares what stack you used. So now I'm enrolled in this program. It was an extensive 12 weeks program, boot camp, Lighthouse, and in October, I remember we were going through so much stress. Like I had left the house to live with my mother so I can focus on my, studies and, go about, because I know computer and programming is, it was 12 to 17 hours a day. We have lectures in the morning, 2 hours, and then you have assignments and, course work to do, and you need to submit, and you have deadlines. And, if you do not finish or fulfill the requirements, you do not graduate, And for me, it's not about graduation. It's about learning. I need to learn. I need to learn and understand what I'm doing. I could care less about a degree. I finished. I got my diploma, but I'm more happy the fact that I actually can do things. So October, there was a problem because my wife at the time, she works for the government, and she had to, give an attestation letter. This is the time where we had mass campaign, right? The vaccination campaign in October, in April, started in April, mass vaccination, right? It's like I'm in the industry, man, in the, hardware industry, product development. And I know it takes years before you can, just come up with your FDA approved shit. It takes 7 years, minimum to 10 years to finish clinical trials and, reports and, certification, approval requirements. But now suddenly, within a year you have a vaccine. Listen, man, I'm a technology man, but I have the choice. It's my natural choice to take it or not take it. You have not convinced me, so I will not take it. It's not your business. If I take it when I'm convinced. So at the time, my wife, she was going through a lot of hardship because guess what? Now she or stress, I should say, because now, she has been essentially threatened to lose her job in lieu for the jab. So, jab or job. And now the government of Canada tells you, we did not force you. Like, you fucking intimidated people. You coerced every single person. It's not me telling you that. There's, accolade of stories. There's anecdote of, it's not just, anecdote. It's, man, there are tons of cases where people have lost their jobs because, we didn't force you. Of course you didn't force me. You just intimidated people. And the ignorant of the law are the sheeps who are going to line up before, with the mask on and lined up. Like, come on, when they shut down the entire country was shut down. The entire country was shut down. But you only had the weed shop, which they made legal in 2017 under the Cannabis Act, and guess what? The liquor shop, the liquor store, because both are tax revenue for the government. That's what it is. Everything else must be shut down. Small business had to be shut down, right? You could not go to a restaurant, right? But no, it's okay. If you wear the mask, suddenly you're safe. That's bullshit. Listen, man, I'm an engineer. I don't have to be a scientist, a medical doctor to understand that you are just full of shit. You have not convinced people. The data it's not convincing. So I have the natural right, the natural choice. You cannot force your shit on me. People all must understand this, but nobody knows the facts. So, they get intimidated, they get, scared, and they go about listening to what the government is saying. Breach of trust. Breach of trust. So, yeah, that's kind of the background story as to where we are. Call me, it's not a conspiracy, man. This is just my views. This is my life. I live this life. I live in Canada. Like, I'm sharing my experience in Canada. Come on, people. An hour, now into this video in 10 minutes. Now I can talk about why I'm so upset. Why? And why do I have a court case? So, I have my court case before the Supreme Court of Canada for my child custody, but it's not just about my child custody. It's about the cruel treatment and the outright violation of my inalienable natural rights and freedom, which are safeguarded by the Constitution of no other than 1982, Part 1. Now, if you go previous to that, I'm also declaring my individual state sovereignty. Right? I'm declaring my own individual state sovereignty, and that is pursuant to Section 92 of the BNA Act 1867. I'm not a lawyer, but it's simple to understand the law. The law are hierarchical. We have this triangle for a reason. 1867 is right here, the Constitution. 1867. That's when Canada federally got incorporated. You had Upper Canada, Lower Canada, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. 1867. They came together, right, and they essentially formed the Dominion, Canada, right. Now, Canada is made of 10 provinces and 3 territories. Now, other provinces joined much later, like in the case of Alberta, they joined in 1905, right? Now, the very first early provinces, so to speak, like Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, they were nothing but what? Quebec, right, is what? A French and an English colony you had for Ontario. So you had Quebec following the French, and, the other provinces were predominantly English. So, France had lost in the battle of Quebec, in the Battle of Quebec in 1775. Too bad, right? So, last I checked, Canada federally is essentially 1867, incorporated with these 4 provinces first, and then now we are made of 10 provinces. We have 10 provinces and 3 territories. So the provinces that joined later do not have do not have the same privileges, so to speak. So you have preferential treatment, for the very first 4 provinces that formed Canada, the Dominion. And then, for example, like for 25 years, you could not extract natural resources, right? Not me, go figure. That's your own constitution, man. So, and the idea is this. As a law-abiding citizen, I'm entrusting. I'm a sovereign citizen myself. So, there's a contract now between me and the government of Canada that under this contract essentially is based on trust. And the idea is this. I'm entrusting the government of Canada and the law enforcement to basically what? With my safety, my well-being, my life. And in lieu, basically, on the other hand, the government must basically make sure that I am a law-abiding citizen. Because if I had a criminal record, I could not be a citizen of this corporation, Canada as a corp. So, Section 92 of the DNA Act, now I'm declaring my individual state sovereignty, right? And Section 52, 1, Part 7 of the Constitution of 1982 suggests that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any child law, be it provincial or municipal, that is against or in contradiction with the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, is null and void. That is it. I don't need to speak further. But this is, again, just to give you an idea as to what happened. And Section 24 of the same act basically allows me to seek remedies. Thank you. So now we'll be seeking, remedies, right? But again, there has to be truth and reconciliation, right? And that is your September the 30th, right? We celebrate, we stand in ovation. We know November the 11th, that's where our veterans, they want to fight, the Second World War. We fought against the Nazis, right? It looks like we have Nazis here in Canada, man. So, I'm not just throwing an allegation just yet. You have to understand why I'm saying such thing. So, now we established and I declared my individual sovereign estate, right? Which is registered in my legal name, right? Legal name, ID, right? Ahmad Al-Shihabi, right? That's my legal name. But like I said, I go by AJ, Ahmad Jr. That's my name, Ahmad Jr. So, and now you're in violation of my inalienable natural rights and freedom, pursuant to, contrary to section or part 1, section 1, 2. You have also, 6, mobility, 7, pursuit of life and happiness, 8, seizure and search, right, unlawful. So 1, 2, 6, 8, you go, and again, 10, 11, legal rights, 12, you have like also like discrimination, like, equality, section 15. So you are in breach of trust yourself, right? Because you have the fiduciary duty to essentially, I'm a natural person. You cannot impose your bullshit laws, that basically, goes against my safety and well-being. So now into the story. November 17, 2023 was a Friday, I'm in Elmer in a building apartment that I pay rent for. And you know what? There's a record. I go for a run, I have my hoodie and, I have my pants on, cargo, like, my pants, like, sweatpants like this. And I have my hoodie on, and I have this look. I'm going there to, basically, I go for a run. This is November 17, 2023. I go for a run. Come back from my run, I'm sweating. And, in fact, I remember that day, I had only, it was like we had a snowfall. So I go and